In this video, we are going to build swipe-based, fully functional onboarding system in our Flutter application that you can reuse in every app that you create. So let's dive in. At its core, every onboarding screen has exactly three things: title, subtitle, and an image. So instead of hard coding three separate screens, let's represent that structure as a simple Dart class. So let's go to lib models folder and let's create a file called onboarditem.dart. And here is the onboard item class with title, subtitle, and animation URL. Next, let's create a file under lib folder called onboardingpage.dart, which will be responsible for showing onboarding screens. Here, we will use stateful widget to manage the UI updates. Next, let's create a list of onboard item objects, which act as a data source. Every onboarding screen will be rendered using this list. And a quick note: the Lottie package and the assets have already been added to this Flutter project. Next, let's create a widget to render one of these items. Go to lib widgets folder and create a file called onboarditemWidget.dart. Onboard item widget is a stateless widget. Its only job is to take the onboard item data and display it. No state needed. Before we finish this widget, add the onboard item widget to onboarding page with some real data from our list so that we can see what we are building as we go. And let's also update the home property in main.dart to use onboarding page instead of home page. And let's run the application. Navigate to the onboard item widget. Inside build, we will use column widget to stack things vertically and center everything using main axis alignment as center. First, let's display the Lottie animation using Lottie.asset method and import the package. After that, add title and subtitle using the text widget, maintaining a spacing of 20 for visual clarity. Hit save. And just like that, our onboarding UI is already looking clean and modern. Navigate to the onboarding page, and now comes the fun part: swiping between screens. Here we will use pageview.builder because it builds pages lazily, improving performance. And the item builder then links each index to an onboard item widget based on our data list. Next, UI elements like page indicators, button text, and navigation rely heavily on the active page. So let's create an integer variable called current page and set its default value to 0. And update it with onPage change callback of PageViewBuilder with setState so that whenever the current page changes, we can update our UI. Hit save. And suddenly the UI is gone, just a blank screen. So let's open up debug console. And here we are getting an error: horizontal viewport was given unbounded height. Viewport expand in the cross axis to fill the container. This happens because page view is inside a column widget and column provides an infinite height. So page view can determine its own height. The solution is very simple. Just wrap page view in flexible widget. This tells page view takes up as much as space as you need. Hit save. And now the UI is visible and we can swipe through the screens smoothly. Now let's add the small dots at the bottom. Even though they look simple, they greatly improve how users navigate. So let's use a row widget to arrange them horizontally and center them using the main axis alignment as center. Next, let's create a circle inside the row widget using a container with primary color. Hit save. And immediately we can see the circle appear in our UI. Next, we will use listview.generate to dynamically create multiple circles. Here, for the length property, we are using pages.length and returning a container for each item inside the generator function. Let's also add a spacing of 10 to keep them nicely separated. Hit save. And now our page indicator circles are ready. Next, let's update the circle color to highlight the active screen. So let's go to the color property of container widget and check if current page is equal to index. If it is, then use the primary color from color scheme. Otherwise, use the outline color. Hit save. And now we have working page indicators. To enhance the visual appeal of page indicator, replace container widget with animated container. Set animation duration to 300 milliseconds and adjust the active indicator width to 18. Hit save. And now when I swipe through the onboarding screens, the dot smoothly expands with animation. Now let's bring in the action button. This button includes dynamic behavior. Here we are using ternary operator for button text. On the last page, it will display get started, and on every other page, it will display next. Hit save. And the action button is now visible on the UI. Right now the button looks right, but it doesn't do anything. So let's create an instance of page controller class, which allows us to control the page view programmatically and assign it to the controller property of page view. Next, override the dispose method and dispose the page controller to avoid memory leaks. Now let's create the next function. Here the logic is very simple. If we are not on the last page, animate forward. If we are on the last page, then navigate to the home page using navigator.pushReplacement method so that user can't go back to the onboarding screens. And finally, assign this function to action buttons on press callback. Hit save. And now the onboarding screens can be navigated using the action button. Tapping it on the final screen takes us to the home page. While the flow works correctly, there is an issue. If I restart the application, onboarding shows again. In real-world application, onboarding should appear only once. So to solve this, we will use shared preferences. To install the shared preferences package, open up terminal and execute command flutter pub add shared preferences. Now, rather than spreading shared preferences call across the codebase, let's take a cleaner approach. Let's create a file called preferencesservice.dart under lib/services folder. In this preferences service, we will define three methods: init, setBool, and getBool. Init method initializes the shared preferences instance, while setBool and getBool help store and retrieve the boolean value using a key. Next, let's create a single instance of preferences service using a private constructor. Hit save. Next, navigate to the main.dart and invoke init function from the preferences service before calling the runapp function. This ensures the service is fully initialized before the application starts. Next, navigate to the next function in onboarding page, and right before navigating to the home screen, we will write one boolean variable in shared preferences with key as onboarding done and value as true. Since setBool is an asynchronous function, let's update the return type of next function from void to future void and mark it with an async keyword. We are also getting a warning about using build context across async gaps. So to fix this, let's add an if condition to check if the widget is still mounted before using the context. Hit save. Next, go to main.dart and read the value from shared preferences using the same key, onboarding done. And since getBool is an asynchronous function, mark the main function with async keyword. Next, pass the value stored in the variable is onboarding done to my app widget. And finally, we will decide which screen to show based on the is onboarding done variable. If onboarding is completed, then we display the home page. Otherwise, we display the onboarding screens. Hit save. Let's stop the application and run it again. Here we are facing a Flutter error. Binding has not yet been initialized. And fortunately, the fix is straightforward, already mentioned in the error message. To resolve this error, stop the debugging, go to main.dart and call widgetsFlutterBinding.ensureInitialize inside the main function. Hit save and run the application again. And now swipe through the onboarding screens, tap on get started. We are on the home screen. Restart the application and instantly home screen shows up. No onboarding again. Smooth, right? That's how real app behaves. Alright, all the code from this tutorial is available on GitHub. Link in the description below. Thank you for watching this tutorial and I will see you in the next one. Happy coding!